Welcome to this Sahara 4 exercise. In this exercise, we will import the wellbore diagram of each well. In this case, we are referring to the production or injection facilities that are defined inside each well and the modification of them over time. For that, we will go to our Sahara project. Here we will look for import, and as the wellbore diagram is just another kind of well work, we will go to well work and here wellbore diagram. Once here, we will look for our Excel file, and once in the Excel file, we will look for the wellbore diagram worksheet. And here we can see the table with all the importation data. In this case, we are importing another type of well work that is the basically the same rules that we discussed in the previous exercise about the relationship between the date of interventions and the date where the well work is defined, and so on and so on, the well work ID and all that information that explains how this information, how the different operations and the well works are related inside and how the information is organized. All that applies to this as well. That's pretty much the same. It doesn't have much difference. um, so in case that you need to see that in more detail, feel free to go to that exercise. In this case, we will just explain which what every column in this table is. So we will go here first. We have the identifier, which is going to define to which well we are importing this information. This is the well work start date. As we discussed, in this case, we have the well work ID here, that's the intervention number, and the date in which the well work starts, that is defined here. Here, consider that we have the same code that we used for the previous one, so some of them probably will be associated to the previous operations that we imported in the exercise that have perforations, tests, cementation. Here we have the sequence number. That in case of wellbore diagram, maybe it's not as relevant because this is just going to be the modification of the whole thing. So we are going to a tubing casing, a pump, and that's going to have uh, more or less it's not as important as when you import perforation and test, where it is relevant which one was done first. So if you, for example, did a perforation in an area, then you did a cementation, and then you perforate it again for some reason, the order there is quite relevant. Here, in the case that we are importing pieces of the well, tubing, casing, pumps, anchors, and so on and so on, maybe not as relevant. But here you can include your sequence number to show the way in which the modification of the well in this date was done. Here we have the top and the bottom of each piece. In this case, we can see that the tubing goes through the well head here at the top of the well to this final depth. We have the surface casing here going from 0 to 111, and also the casing, the completion casing going from 0 to 2010. Here we have the OD, the outside diameter of the piece, the inside diameter of the piece. Here we have this line here, which in this case is we are not going to define. We have grade here, that the grade of the steel, the weight of the piece, that's also information that can be imported, the brand that for example a packer or a plug has. We can define the brand of the piece. Some comments that we may add to each piece if we want to visualize them later in the wellbore window. And here we have the removal date, which is quite relevant because it is important to define, in the case that the piece was removed, in which date the removal happened, because we will in that sense we will define from which date to which date this installation was actually in the well. So that is relevant as well and has to be considered. um, so yeah, we have everything in order here, and we will import. Here we see that we have all the records imported, and the same thing that happened in the previous exercise. We have this one here, but we shouldn't pay attention to it because this is a file generated from the exportation of another Sahara project. So that's we should this warning here is not important. So okay, and we are done. So that will be everything for this tutorial. We have imported the facilities, the different tubings, casings, and also in the previous exercise we imported the perforations, the tests, and all the other information associated to Wellworks. And in the next exercise we will open the Wellworks window here and look at the information that we imported in more detail. So that will be everything for this tutorial, and thank you for watching.